Hey everybody, happy Thursday, December 14th, 2017. It's me, John Lorden, here with another episode of Itchy Mysteries. And I found another Netflix gem for you guys. I know it's available here in the US. I've seen references that make me think it's also available in the UK, but I'm not sure about the rest of the world. So I did also see a link for it on YouTube. I'm going to have links to both in the description box below. Today we are talking about a film called Breaking the Cycle, and Netflix describes it as the warden of Halden, Norway's most humane prison, tours the US prison system to urge a new approach emphasizing rehabilitation. It runs about 57 minutes long, and if you try to look this up online, know that there are many, many films called Breaking the Cycle. Another one that's even about prison and about a prison in Norway, but it's not the same film as this one. So be sure to drop in that you're looking for the 2017 documentary if you're just trying to read up on additional information. That should help narrow your search a little bit. Right off the bat, just from the description, I'm sure you guys realize this raises a lot of very interesting questions. And quite honestly, it helped point me in a direction that I haven't really thought about before. And that is the process of having someone in prison and then having them released from prison. And does that process, as we have it, especially here in the US, really help that person and stop them from reoffending? Now, I can tell you, even before I saw this, my thought on that was probably not. That I think our prison system, I don't know. I mean, some people might say that it actually takes criminals and makes them worse. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I do think that there's a big question of, does it take criminals and truly rehabilitate them? Does it actually provide what's in its title, that it's supposed to be a Department of Corrections? I know that when we look into cases of missing people and unsolved murders, one of the cornerstones that investigators like to lean on is, if this person offended in the past, they're going to offend again in the future. And I think we can lean on that in part because of some of the issues that are raised here in this documentary. Now, let me tell you, this documentary is pretty jarring. I mean, it's going from, what they describe as the most humane prison in Norway, and then showing you Attica in New York, which is a very, very tough prison. So you're looking at two extreme ends of the spectrum, in my opinion. Some of the stuff that I saw from the prison in Norway just shocked me, like to the point where there was one moment in particular in the film where I literally thought they were joking me. And I'll tell you guys about it. It's not like a major spoiler or something, but there's one point where they show there is a music studio, and I think there's actually two music studios in the prison. So all of a sudden you have these prisoners that really can't really tell they're prisoners because they're pretty much wearing regular clothes, and they're working in what looks like a rad music studio. And I was just like, that can't be real. Is that real? And it is. But it really raises that question, and it kind of highlights it in a really unique way of the way that we hold prisoners, keeping them behind bars, not even giving them privacy to use the bathroom. Is that really fostering an environment where they can truly take corrective action and not reoffend? And I think that's a big question, because sure, on the outset, with a very simplistic mind or worldview, you could say, well, it's so terrible in prison that that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be terrible there so that they don't want to come back. The question that this really raised for me that I never really thought of before is, isn't taking away their freedom enough? And I think because of the fact that the prison in Norway has this very easy to live in atmosphere. I mean, they essentially live in what seem like dorms. They have a door that actually sections off their bathroom, so they don't have wardens or prison personnel walking by able to see them while they're in the bathroom. They seem to have kind of free run of the environments that they have access to. But I think because of all that freedom that they have within that system, it really highlights what it's about. The fact that their freedoms outside of those walls don't exist. They can't go visit family. They can't go to the movies or go to a regular job and develop their career or things like that. But the environment that they create within the walls of that system seems to more closely resemble what society is like outside of it. And isn't that a better approach for helping some of these guys figure out how they would integrate into society when they are eventually released? It's a really interesting question to me. And then, of course, taking the juxtaposition of that type of prison system and butting it up against something like Attica really highlights the question in a very unique way. I was absolutely just drawn to this film as soon as it started, as soon as I saw this interesting prison system that I'd never really considered before. I really appreciated the questions that it was asking, the things that it was trying to highlight. You know, it's strange because I struggle with it, and I think that's why I appreciate this film so much. Even after it, I'm still struggling with the thought of, do I think that all prisons should be like that example that we're seeing from Norway? I don't quite know, but there are certainly aspects of what I'm seeing in that prison system that I think should be pulled over into our systems that might give these guys and ladies a better chance of not becoming reoffenders, not becoming perpetually, coming back to this prison system over and over. And even that kind of spawns off its own interesting question about, is it really that bad? Our assumption is that our prison systems are so bad that no one should want to be there. In terms, not that they're bad in terms of operations, but they're bad in terms of the type of environment that they are, that you shouldn't want to be there. And if we kind of think about that and look at the history of criminals, it doesn't seem like it really stops them from wanting to go back. Because, like I said, a cornerstone of a lot of investigators' belief is that these guys are going to reoffend. They're going to wind up in prison again. So trying to scare them out of that environment doesn't seem to be the right way to do it. But it's really interesting. I think the filmmaker did a good job kind of showing both angles, treading a good, fair line in the story. It might err a little bit to the side of the guy from Norway. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the warden from Norway. It certainly errs on the side of his perspective a bit, but they pretty fairly support that information. And I don't want to tell you about it because it's one of the best scenes in terms of my mind, but if you watch it, by the time you get to the end, you'll know what I'm talking about. They basically have prisoners that are able to confirm that some of the methods that they're using in Norway would probably be beneficial if we started adopting them here. And then they even go to another prison that I believe is in North Dakota that has started changing some of their approach with their prisoners and talking to them about how that's going. And of course, there are challenges that are going on with that as well. Just really interesting. And once again, very thought-provoking. Didn't really notice anything special for music. Cinematography, good enough, but these are shots of people being in prison. There's not, not a lot of great scenery or anything like that you're going to see there, but it certainly is interesting seeing the difference from the Norway prison to Attica, and especially the difference in the people and how they're speaking about their situations. And that's probably something that I really appreciated about this film, is it really touches on humanity and brought that out of everyone that was being interviewed. Even people that I wasn't really big on, like some of the management in Attica, still wound up showing their consideration and the fact that there is a heart under there somewhere, despite the cold exterior that some of them have to give for their position. Another thing that was just kind of a side effect, but I found really interesting, was when I looked at all those people that were being interviewed, I think the people that I would really not want to be are the ones that are actually working at the ground level of the U.S. prison system. They seemed to be generally kind of unhappy and extremely unhealthy people, which is strange because it seems like the prisoners are even healthier than the people that are keeping them in prison. I don't know. The film doesn't really address it, but it was just an interesting thing that I noticed watching it as a viewer, saying, who am I associating with more here? And wow, those people in particular, the actual correctional officers, I really struggled to get a good sense of their understanding. They kind of had the same script that we've heard time and time again from pretty much from law enforcement, not really correctional officers, but just, if I get to go home at the end of the day and see my kids again, that's a good day for me. really makes you think twice about, are we doing as much as we can to really help these people so that when they reintegrate into society, we can trust them to be good members of society. Otherwise, what's the point of this whole system anyway? Just so they keep firing back through the same thing and we keep wasting money, locking them up for years at a time, letting them go for a little stretch, harming someone else, and then locking them up again. It sounds, I don't know, define a vicious cycle. That kind of sounds like it to me. But all in all, I think many of you brain scratchers will appreciate this piece. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's the right length. I don't think it could have or should have been any longer. I think they really explored the topic that they brought up. The questions that they asked were pretty well defined. And outside of that, it just left me really wondering about it. I kind of even thought about maybe doing some episodes of Johnny Vlogs just talking about aspects of it, but we'll see how that goes. So 8 out of 10 from me. Links are in the description box below. Thank you so much. We're here at the end of the video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I think you guys will appreciate this one. And if not, or if you do, let me know about it in the comments below, as well as any suggestions you have for future episodes of Itchy Mysteries, which I don't know if this one's really a mystery. I guess there is a big question in it, but it's not quite an itchy mystery like we traditionally have on this channel. But you know, I like to mix it up sometimes. Thank you, everyone. I will see you back here on the Lord and Arch channel with a special Brain Scratch update. We've got a lot of cases that have updates that I want to touch on, so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. Hope you'll join me, and I will see you there. Take care.